So, in the last episode, I told you that we were in New York sitting, opening my phone and seeing this heavy machinery, Bobcat, digging in the land. And this was all happening back home in Barbados. Dirt flying, excavation moving, progress happening. Our first reaction should have been pure excitement, right?
Yeah, man, the vision's strong, building back home where I belong. Ooh, yeah. But every foundation got a story to tell about the unseen cracks and the caution bell. So come walk with me through the sun and the rain. On Jackie's journey, we gon' rise again with full support.
As I told you in the previous episode, that I experienced this strange feeling of being happy, sad, frightened, glad. So now I want to explain to you what that feeling meant. I was happy. I was happy because the land that sat there for 25 years and that dream that was sitting there, it was looking hopeful. I was sad. I was sad because the life that I had built in New York for the past almost 40 years, the many friends, the different cultures, the jobs, amazing jobs, the cultural experiences, the travels, the different things I learned, the many summers, and the terrible, harsh winters. All that life will soon be behind me. So I was a little sad, but I was frightened. I was frightened because though it seemed to be happening for truth, something in me was saying, but how much it gonna cost? Like, where is this money coming from? When I wanna meet the contractor yet, but I was glad. I was glad because everything looked like communication. Things were happening. Everything was being proactively done. Like, what? The land, we have an email and we have a WhatsApp saying that things have started. And productivity seemed to be happening at a very early stage. For me, I like organization. I like things to be falling in place financially, spiritually, mentally, everything. I just like things to be happening as I believe it should. So this was exactly what I wanted. This is exactly what we wanted. But my document control, records management, professional side suddenly whispered to me. I said, wait, why is construction started before any paperwork gets signed? And that was our warning sign. Let me take you back to where this started. My husband and I bought, well, I would have to say paid down. We paid down on that land back in 1999. We got what we would call, some people call a susu, some people say a partner. In Barbados, we say we got our meeting term because our words, we are very self-explanatory, or we meet to get return. And at that time, I was about 4 months pregnant in 1999 with my last daughter, and I have 2 daughters. What that felt like to me was an ancestral accomplishment. Why? Because that same land is connected to the same farmland for which my mother fought and hope, as I mentioned in the earlier episode. So that was our dream of thinking that one day we'll be retiring, and like all the Caribbean and those in the diaspora, we have this, we always say one day we're going to go back home, one day we're going to retire, one day we're going to start building. And that felt like such an accomplishment. But sometime, maybe back in 2023, we engaged a professional architect and with strong local experience, and I must say, also a very, very close, trusted relationship we had with the architect. And we asked to have him begin designing the home. Back and forth, making these changes. But by July 2024, the Barbados planning development, we were ready to be on the voyage. The plans were approved. Let's fast forward to about September now, 2024. So as house plans and discussions were done, we had progress. We also asked the architect for a recommendation regarding like contractor options, because when you are overseas, you depend heavily on recommendations, people telling you, oh, this person worked for me before. So you depend heavily on that. We depend on their suggestions and recommendations. And later, I also, you'll see, requested from the architect to recommend suppliers, but we'll talk about that at a later episode. So now with contact information in hand, I reached out to the contractor and I made a phone call. I said, hi, this is Jackie. I'm calling from New York. You were recommended by the architect, and we are looking forward to meeting you. I will be visiting Barbados in November, which would have been like 4 weeks coming up. This was, say, mid-October, so I would have been planning for Barbados. Like I like November in Barbados, I would have been planning for the end of November, and I said I'll be there and we'll get to meet and discuss the plans and so on. The conversation went very well. We exchanged email, contact information, and we decided that WhatsApp would be a okay way for us to communicate as well. It's least expensive. So now everything felt connected. Everything felt connected. We now have professionals. We had recommendation. And to be honest, everything felt aligned. Then by October, I received an email and it stated that we need to pay to install some temporary utilities, which would be the water and electrical box. Well, I can understand that because this is what we were told. Sometimes these things take a while and the process may take some time. However, the contractor will handle that. So, okay. For things taking, anything that's going to take a while, I want to be proactive. I'm going to get it in so that by time we're ready, it'll be on track. Then I received another email. It was a draft of a contract. And this draft of the contract was for my review and discussion for when I reach Barbados. Everything seems good and exciting. So with that, I immediately transferred the first set of money to the contractor's account. Then I received another email that excavation had started on the site. And later a ping from my phone, which I told you was the WhatsApp showing the Bobcat clearing the site. Excavation has already begun. And emotionally, here came that feeling of being happy, sad, frightened, glad. But I was more happy, glad. I interpreted movement as progress at that time. But professionally, a silent alarm should have gone off in my head immediately because the project was moving faster than the paperwork. This was the first major red flag. Momentum can create emotional pressure. When you see movement, especially us in the diaspora that are building back home, when we see movement, we naturally assume systems are already in place. But construction activity does not automatically mean that coordination, approvals, contracts, or protections are fully aligned. Sometimes movement creates the illusion of safety. One lesson I would now tell every overseas builder: never mistake activity for organization. Excavators can move dirt long before legal protections catch up. Here's our lesson learned for today. One lesson I now tell every overseas builder: never mistake activity for organization. Excavators can move dirt long before legal protections catch up. And overseas, distance can make that danger even harder to see. Diaspora people know this feeling very well. We know this feeling. You work overseas for years and saving carefully and putting money away and struggling between two worlds, dreaming and imagining home, and that one day you're going to be back there, retired and relaxing. And then one video, one photo from back home can make your entire heart jump because suddenly the dream finally looks real. In November 2024, as I told you, I was planning to go home. I finally arrived in Barbados. Happy and ready for big things. Big things are gone. And those of us in the diaspora know this. When traveling back home, you always need to pack some funeral clothes. Correct? Always. Because it's always, even though not planned, there's always a wake or funeral to attend. Because for me, within maybe 2 days of me arriving there on the island, I was told about a funeral that was going to be held somewhere deep in the countryside. And upon arriving at that funeral, guess who I saw there? I saw the architect who I was going to be later meeting to go over plans and with the contract and so on. I was extremely excited. And I gave him hugs and big greetings, and I smiled and I said, "Thank you. Thank you warmly for mobilizing the contractor and starting excavation and foundation." But instead of smiling, he froze and he looked at me completely confused. Matter of fact, I thought that he saw the dead person behind. I thought what we were saying in Beijing, I thought he saw a duppy. because he turned and he looked at me and he said, "What excavation? What foundation?" And in that moment, my stomach dropped. I was now frightened, sad, because the person responsible for the drawings didn't even know that work had started. Hey, wonders never end. So please share, like, and follow this episode, because after the funeral, money started flowing already. So please share this podcast. I beg. Like and follow. Share this with anyone in the diaspora, any Bajan, anyone you know building back home in their country, but especially like me in Barbados. I can see you the next episode.
From foreign shores, I bring the vision home. Built a legacy from concrete and from stone. Got the blueprints drawn, the white sands calling me. For the diaspora's children, planting the family tree. Building back home against the Atlantic tide. With Bajan roots and all that island pride. Watch the foundation rise, a brand new dawn in store. This ain't just building houses, it's something so much more. Yeah, it's Jackie and Luke building back home in Barbados.